If you look at how nations negotiate today, you'll find they are running on an outdated operating system. It's a reactive, zero-sum environment where one side's gain inherently requires another side's loss. In this environment, traditional diplomacy struggles to gain traction. Leaders rely on paper treaties that simply manage the symptoms of scarcity rather than resolving the root causes that drive the conflict in the first place. The problem runs deeper than policies. It lives within the leaders themselves. A lifetime of geopolitical fear, viral outrage, and biological stress creates a legacy code that compromises their logic and forces them into a defensive, reflexive posture. This model operates on the principle that the microcosm of the individual directly influences the macrocosm of the global structure. When a decision maker is physically reacting to high-stress neurotoxins and chronic cellular inflammation, their high-level strategy naturally defaults to the same defensive, short-term survivalism that characterizes global conflict. True ethical leadership requires a complete reboot of the human machine, starting from the inside out, to ensure the brain is capable of long-term architectural thinking. This reboot begins with Phase 1 of the curriculum, where leaders must achieve complete biological clarity before they are entrusted with managing external infrastructure. Phase 1 mandates the removal of biological variables that cloud judgment. By adopting a whole food, plant-based diet centered on the Barness Miracle Bar, participants stabilize their gut-brain axis and eliminate the systemic inflammation that triggers the body's defensive fight-or-flight response. Consuming an entirely cruelty-free supply chain serves as a physical rehearsal for the do-no-harm protocol. It requires the leader to audit every input for their own body with the same rigorous attention to detail they will later apply to community-scale resource management and global supply chains. This protocol has deep theological roots. It aligns with historical rabbinic visions of a multi-species covenant, where true peace is built on the refusal to exploit or degrade any living creature. Maintaining this biological baseline allows the brain to operate with a high level of logical rigor, making a leader's cellular health a measurable indicator of their strategic stability. Once biological clarity is established, the curriculum installs what we call the ethical BIOS, a three-tiered moral operating system known as the guilt-free standard. The first rule is the non-negotiable floor: do no harm. Your actions cannot extract from or damage the ecosystem. The second rule is help if you can, which creates a mandate for proactive, generative contribution to systemic prosperity. This diagram illustrates the third rule, which serves as a cognitive failsafe. If unsure, ask. When facing complex moral ambiguity, leaders consult the GenAI Intent Engine, a predictive AI that filters the scenario and outputs a verified, non-extractive path forward. This site blueprint tracks the transition into Phase 2 of the curriculum, the external narrative. Using the VEGAN leadership matrix, participants take their established internal governance and scale it outward to manage physical community supply chains. By forcing leaders to apply these daily ethical protocols in real-world environments, the program bridges the critical gap between abstract moral theories and physical geopolitics. This flowchart tracks how the process works for traumatized combat veterans. The program takes them through a structured transition, starting with historical anchoring to untangle past grievances, and moving into physical rehabilitation to convert their specialized protective training into constructive architecture. They graduate the program as certified Earth Guardians. Their training is redirected into life support defense, making them fully capable of deploying modular, automated RQ-18 community hubs into the world's most critical zones. Zooming out to the macro level, these hubs are built on an integrated architecture called the Triple Helix. Think of it as the foundational BIOS for global prosperity. The helix weaves together three interdependent strands: a software layer providing moral accountability, a hardware layer of sustainable physical infrastructure, and a power source driven by a unique economic incentive. That power source is the Peace for Profit flywheel. It is an economic engine where verifiable moral legitimacy actively reduces geopolitical risk. Lower risk attracts high-scale capital investment, and those investments generate compounding prosperity through self-sufficient communities. By hard-coding these protocols into both human biology and AI oversight, the framework aligns every personal and financial incentive towards stability. This turns global peace into a predictable, high-yield market outcome.